Good afternoon to you. Mark Sudduth, HurricaneTrack.com here. Wanted to give you an update on the winter storm that is forecast to develop. This is the off-season edition of the Hurricane Outlook and Discussion, talking winter storms now for the 19th day of January in 2016. Let's get right to it. The GFS 500 millibar chart from the 12Z run today. This is the energy right here coming into the Pacific Northwest, and it looks rather innocuous and strung out. This represents vorticity or energy in the atmosphere at about the 18,000 foot level or so, what we call the 500 millibar portion of the atmosphere. The atmosphere is like an onion. You peel it away, there's different layers, and this is just one of those layers. So this represents the energy that's going to come in, dive in across the south, carve off quite an impressive cutoff low, and then exit the coast with a accompanying surface low, and the end result will be more than likely a very memorable, high impact, and dangerous. I mean, snow is pretty. I like the postcards and the picture scenes that we see around Christmas time of snow. Absolutely, that's great. You know, you think about It's a Wonderful Life and George Bailey running through the snow there. Wonderful, that's awesome. But it can also be very deadly if you don't respect it, just like anything. And this storm is going to have some major impacts aside from the pretty fluffy snow. Some of that snow is going to be excessive and potentially life-threatening. Here's a satellite picture, visible satellite shot showing that storm system over the Pacific Ocean, getting ready to come in here to Washington, Oregon, parts of California, and Nevada. And then from there, it moves across through the Rockies and towards the lower Mississippi Valley, where in the model depiction here, boy, isn't life wonderful these days when we can see the evolution of something like this into the future. This is the GFS from the 12Z run, and I'm just going to show you the next 5 days. Again, here's the energy. This is what you want to watch, and notice how it comes in, and then the low pressure area. This is all in the 500 millibar area. We'll go and look at the surface in just a few minutes. But watch how this all progresses. I'll just get to it. Again, pay attention to this area here and watch how this moves along as I go through the next 5 days. You see that energy coming in to the Pacific Northwest. There it is now, just about a day later, over parts of Idaho, and then it continues to drop to the south and east with time, generating a lot more vigor with it. Okay, there's a lot more energy associated with it. You see how it starts to create this U shape, a trough being carved out in the atmosphere as the energy starts to really amplify. And then finally, over the Mississippi Valley, the extreme northern Gulf Coast states here, that energy starts to really come to fruition and generate its own surface low, which we'll look at in just a moment, that will move up the coast. So you have this upper level energy coming in with the system. See if I can get it to advance. Doesn't look like it wants to. Over the next few days, and then it generates the surface low. And I mean, look at this. If you know meteorology, you see this kind of energy, this vorticity, the very low height lines in here. We're talking about a lot of energy in the atmosphere. That's the best way to simplify it. When you see something like this rolling bowling ball, if you will, that comes through and going to deliver quite a storm system to parts of the East Coast. I'm just going to let it play, and you can see it again as it moves out through by itself. So again, it dives in from the Pacific Northwest here, comes across the Rockies, a little piece of energy coming through in the next 24 hours, some light snow for the Appalachians, and then here comes this system towards the end of the week, and it cuts off from the main jet stream, and a surface low will develop along with that, and boy, it's going to be problems from there for people along the mid-Atlantic and areas inland, of course. Even back as far as Ohio, this is not just a coastal event. We think of a nor'easter as being primarily a coastal event. Well, this is going to have some pretty far-reaching effects. This is the 96-hour GFS. I just want to show you one snapshot here. Just gives you an idea. This is the surface low right here to the east of Delaware. I'm going to paint it yellow for you. And very tight pressure gradient to the north of that, meaning that the coast of New Jersey, Delaware, Maryland, you could see a significant storm surge with this. And because we're coming up on the astronomical highest tides of the month, the full moon this weekend, that surge could be a little higher. Some of the extratropical surge guidance, in other words, we have hurricane storm surge guidance for tropical cyclones, but then there's also storm surge guidance for your mid-latitude storm systems, or what we call these extratropical storms. And some of that guidance is becoming alarming for areas along the Delaware and Jersey coastlines here because of the onshore flow, near hurricane force winds and some isolated gusts, and the tight pressure gradient. You have high pressure up here, low pressure to the south, and in between the two, that sandwich funneling effect, if you will, very tight pressure gradient, squeezing the wind, forcing it perpendicular to the coast in some cases. Just not a good situation for the areas that have recovered, in many cases, so very well after Sandy in 2012. This could be a very disruptive major coastal flooding event, and I will talk about that more on tomorrow's video update as more information comes in. Right now, it's still very preliminary. We still are 4 days away, and a lot can change. Is there still room for this to just kind of dive in and then go on out to sea? I guess it's mathematically possible, but I don't think any of the ensemble members of these global models, you have the operational runs, and then you have a bunch of additional runs with slightly different variables, and I'm not seeing too much evidence at all to support that this storm could just end up going out to sea away from the coast and leave everybody with no harm, no foul. So before all of this hits, though, check this out. We have winter weather advisories and winter storm warnings in effect for parts of, we'll call it Kentucky, southern Indiana, and parts of Tennessee, and then eventually getting into the North Carolina mountains, extreme northern Georgia as a small system moves through, not related to the system that's going to be coming into the Pacific Northwest here, that'll give them their own shot of wintry weather. So let's get into something important here. The National Weather Service out of Mount Holly, New Jersey, excellent forecast discussions as always. This office, made famous, if you will, for the lack of a better way of describing it, by Sandy in 2012. Their forecast team, very well respected. And I just want to read through some of this so that you get an idea of what they're thinking here along the coast of New Jersey. And remember, this forecast discussion is available to anyone, anywhere. You can just go to the National Weather Service at weather.gov. You type in your zip code right in here, and when you get to the next landing page, you scroll down and click on forecast discussion, and here you are. You'll get to this right here, and this, of course, coming from Mount Holly, New Jersey, valid at around noon today, so it's not too old, a couple hours ago. And they have a near term and a synopsis and etc. I want to go to the long term part right here, and it's interesting to note that they really start to talk about this storm in a much more concerning manner. But I really like this right here, that everything in this long-term package is stated with above average confidence. You want to see that. If there's going to be a dangerous storm, you want the forecasts to be of a high confidence nature. You don't want wishy-washy. You remember Joaquin? That was a horrible pain in the butt for forecasters because it could have gone either way. Come into the mid-Atlantic and deal a devastating blow, no pun intended, to that area, or go out to sea. And we saw what happened with Hurricane Joaquin. It went out to sea. But there was that period of time where it was very frustrating, and the forecast was almost always of low confidence when it was aimed at the United States. In this situation, for the winter storm, this little sentence right here really helps to, I think, shore up my confidence as I watch this, that the forecast process is moving along so that the confidence is fairly high, and in this situation, above average. Anyway, so even though the short waves modeled to develop this major storm are only now crossing the west coast, there is still more sampling by multiple North American platforms. Basically, we're almost to the window where this energy right here that I was talking about earlier can finally get in over the United States, where we have these balloon soundings that will be launched twice a day, maybe even if they want to do it more often, if the storm seems serious enough, that we have a better sampling of the atmosphere. The storm system's still over the Pacific. It's almost within range of our upper air sounding equipment. Anyway, let's get right on to it. Basically what it all comes down to in this discussion, they mention that this is going to be a high impact storm event. Heavy snow, possibility of heavy rain in the areas where it's too warm for snow. Travel could become literally life-threatening, so you better get it done before all of this starts. The I-95 corridor, talking Philadelphia, D.C., areas west of there, all the way to the Jersey coast, it could be very, very dangerous as this begins to unfold, and the snow will pile up very, very quickly. In addition to that, there is the coastal impact, where we will have strong wind, especially along the immediate coast, and the possibility of hurricane-force winds is not completely out of the question. A lot of information here in the discussion. I'm going to scroll down here to the bottom where the tides and coastal flooding comes in. And this is lengthy. I mean, this is incredible. The first part is the near term, where they're talking about basically the low water right now because there's still an offshore flow. But then Saturday, especially in the morning, is where it gets important here. High potential exists for widespread moderate to major coastal flooding. They only need a 1.5 foot storm surge to set things off. And in some cases, they could see anywhere, it says it right here, from 2 to 5 foot surge at the time of high tide. And on top of that, ocean waves of 12 to 15 feet bashing the shore. So this could be an extensive flooding event. These new boardwalks have gone up. Homes have been repaired. Beach erosion is going to be a problem. People could get trapped. Hopefully nobody's going to the beach, right, during something like this. But this is more than just about the snow, and all of this can be read in your forecast discussion. Like I said, in this case, it's Mount Holly, New Jersey that I picked out, but you can go to weather.gov and put in your zip code, or just click on any region. If you want to know what's going to happen in the mountains of Virginia, literally come in here and click on the area. You would scroll down to the landing page, and you go to the forecast discussion, and there it is, all the info you need to know based on the latest guidance from that local weather service office. And this is where they will talk about snowfall forecasts, etc., because I know a lot of people are going to be interested in that, and that certainly is something to take into consideration. My main point is to have people realize this is a widespread, multi-hazard, faceted storm system, similar to a hurricane in terms of you have multiple weapons that can get you. All right, the heavy snowfall, in some cases ridiculous, life-threatening, excessive snowfall, similar to excessive rainfall and flooding. You have to take it seriously. Wind, that could knock down trees, power outages, etc. With all that heavy snow, any additional wind load could cause problems. Travel, of course, becomes a problem. The coastal impacts, wind, heavy rain where there's no snow, and then the coastal storm surge issue cannot be underestimated, and it needs to be talked about. And I wanted to make sure that I brought that up again on today's discussion. I know there's not much detail, but that's the nature of it right now. I'm not going to be able to show snowfall amounts. It's just kind of pointless, because once the storm goes and it's underway, the snow will fall where it's going to fall. We can get a general idea. But once the storm surge information comes out, I want to talk about that more, because that's more in line with my area of expertise anyway. And then the wind hazards tomorrow. And then it looks like on Thursday I will be heading out to New Jersey, probably where I was for Hurricane Sandy, anywhere from Long Branch to Belmar and point south towards Seaside Heights. In that region, setting up some of our storm surge cameras, a new generation of them that we have ready. They're very small, very lightweight, easy to deploy, and provide an incredible picture, live video with audio. I can put these right there against that storm surge and anchor them down with steel chains so they don't get lost or torn away like we've had in the past. An excellent opportunity from the science perspective to deploy some equipment normally used in hurricanes, but I can also bring you some very immersive, in-your-face footage live of where it's actually happening from multiple locations, and I don't have to be there. I can set the cameras up and then get my rear end away from all that somewhere high and dry and watch it all unfold. So I'll talk about that more tomorrow as well. All right, that's it. That's all I have for today. Again, I am Mark Sudduth for HurricaneTrack.com. Thanks as always for tuning in and watching, and I'll be back tomorrow with another video blog then.